Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Atul Dhyani, Associate Professor from HNB Garhwal University, Srinagar, Garhwal. Today we are going to talk on module data classification and tabulation under the paper Quantitative Techniques for Management Decision. After completing this module, you will able to understand the concept of classification and tabulation. You would also able to describe the rules and types of classification and also able to understand the frequency distribution. Also, you also come to know the class intervals and its types and would also able to understand the basic principles of tabulation and how to describe or sorting the data. After collecting and coding the desired data by the researcher, the first step is to be taken is to classify and tabulate the data. The classification and tabulation provide a clear picture of the collected data, and on that basis the further processing is decided. It is kind of sorting operation and can be repeated as many times as there are possible bases of classification. In other words, we can say that it is a process of separating likes from the unlikes with a view to present condensed and homogeneous picture. Technically, classification is a method of arranging data in groups or classes according to their similar attributes. According to Conner in 1997, he defined classification as the process of arranging things in groups or classes according to their resemblance and affinity and gives expression to the unity of attributes that may subsist amongst a diversity of individuals. Usually, the data can be collected through questionnaire, schedules, or response sheets, which need to be consolidated further for the purpose of analysis and interpretation. This process is known as classification and tabulation. We can include a huge volume of data in a simple statistical table, and one can easily get an interview about the sample by observing the statistical tables rather than the raw data. It is essential to tabulate the data to construct diagrams and graphs. Concept of classification. Classification means to divide the data into a homogeneous group. The collected data can be classified according to their characteristics. With the help of the following examples, it can be understood clearly. In a department of commerce, boys and girls are studying in BCom first year, second year, and final year. So, this data can be classified and tabulated according to their gender and class basis. So as in a company, men and women are working in different categories of job. The seniority of the employees varies from first year to 30 years. So as the classification and tabulation can be made according to their seniority. Types of classification. Classification is very important to concise the data, without which data cannot be further processed. Data can be classified according to the nature of the data and prevalent situations. Generally, in classification of data, units having a common characteristics are placed in one class, and similarly, the whole data are divided into a number of classes, and thereafter it is tabulated further for statistical analysis and interpretation are possible. However, there is no hard and fast rule to make the classification of data, but to understand it clearly, it can be broadly classified into four types as follows. Number 1, qualitative classification. Number 2, quantitative classification. Number 3, chronological classification, and number 4, geographical classification. Now, number 1, that is the qualitative classification. As it is clear by its name that qualitative data are classified according to the characteristics or attributes such as gender, education, religion, etc., which we cannot measure and only find out the presence or absence of a particular attributes in an individual. This kind of classification can be understood by this example, in which the number of schools has been shown according to the management of schools. So the schools have been classified into 4 categories, namely government schools, local body schools, private aided schools, and private unaided schools. A given school belongs to any one of the 4 categories. Such data is shown in categorical or qualitative data. This categorical or qualitative data result from information which has been classified into categories. Such categories are listed alphabetically or in order to decreasing frequencies or in some other conventional way. Each piece of data clearly belongs to one classification of category. So as the table shows, management wise number of school, so serial number 1, 2, 3, 4 schools, and management wise government, local body, private aided and private unaided. Number of schools are government 4, local body 8, private aided 10, private unaided 2. So total number of schools in the town, that is 24. Number 2, the quantitative classification. Quantitative classification, under this kind of classification, it refers to classification that is based on figures, or in other words, which is based on such characteristics which are capable of quantitative measurement like height, weight, income, marks obtained, etc. To understand this classification clearly, here is an example in which the number of schools has been shown according to the enrollment of students in the school. Schools with enrollment varying in a specified range are grouped together. For example, there are 15 schools where the students enrolled are any number between 51 and 100. As the grouping is based on numbers, such data are called numerical or quantitative data. Thus, numerical or quantitative data results from counting or measuring. We frequently come across numerical data in newspapers, advertisements, etc. related to the temperature of the cities, cricket average, incomes, expenditures, and so on. So here is the example of numerical data. So number of schools according to enrollment. So enrollment, and the other side is number of schools. So up to 50 enrollment of the students, there are 6 schools, 51 to 100, 15 schools, 101 to 200, there are 12 schools, and 201 to 300, there are 8 schools, and above 300 enrollment, there are 4 schools. So total number of schools are 45. The third category of the data classification, that is the chronological classification. In the chronological classification, data are observed over a period of time. Such series are also known as time series because one of the variables in them is time. If the population of data during the last 8 census is classified, it will result in a time series or chronological classification. Time series are usually listed in chronological order, normally starting with the earliest period. The following table would give an idea of chronological classification. So here one side is years, and suppose we have to measure the birth rate. So in 2005 there is 36.8 birth rate, 2006 36.9, 2007 36.6, 2008 34.6, 2009 34.5, and 2010 this is 35.2, and in last 2011 there is 34.2. So the fourth category of the data classification, that is the geographical classification. This kind of classification is based on geographical or location differences basis between the various items like states, cities, regions, zones, areas, etc. Geographical classification are generally listed in alphabetical order or listed by the frequency size to emphasize the importance of various geographical regions. The following table shows the geographical distribution. So one side we have states and the second side we have yield of food grains, which is in kgs per acre. So in Uttarakhand that is 36.8, in Uttar Pradesh 36.9, in Punjab 36.6, Haryana 34.6, Bihar 34.5, Jharkhand 35.2, and Maharashtra 34.2. So there are some primary rules of classification. The process of arranging data in group and classes according to their similar attributes is an important task for which many important considerations have to be taken into account. However, an ideal classification should pose the following considerations. Number one, the number of classes should not be excessive. There should not be any ambiguity in the definition of classes. All the classes should preferably have equal width and length. Magnitude of the class interval should be as far as possible in multiples of 5 like 10, 15, 20, 25, etc. The class interval should as far as possible is of equal size. The classification must be suitable for the objective of inquiry. The classification should be flexible and items included in such class must be homogeneous. Now the formation of frequency distribution. Under the frequency distribution, the number of time of particular variables has been counted, is noted down, and total is the frequency of that class. In other words, we have just taken count the number of times a particular value is repeated, which is called the frequency of the class. If the value of a variable, for example, height, weight, etc., number of students in a class, readings of a text matter, etc., occurs twice or more in a given series of observations, then the number of occurrence of the value is termed as the frequency of the value. The way of tabulating a pool of data of a variable and their respective frequency side by side is called a frequency distribution of those data. Croxton and Cowden defined the frequency distribution as a statistical table which shows the sets of all distinct values of the variables arranged in order to magnitude either individually or in groups with their corresponding frequencies side by side. This can be understood with the help of following example. Let us consider the marks obtained by 50 students of a class in commerce. So marks of 50 students of a class in commerce. So there is 56, 58, 60, 60, 59, 57, 56, 60, 60, 59 and so on so forth. So if the raw data are arranged in either ascending or descending order of magnitude, we get a better way of presentation, usually called an array. So the above table can be ordered in this way, right? How many times this has been repeated, and this is in fact the ascending orders we have. Now let us present the above data in the form of a sample, right? For example, unorganized way, frequency distribution. Usually the tally marks. A tally mark is an upward slanted stroke which is put against a value each time it occurs in the raw data. The fifth occurrence of the value is represented by a cross tally marks. As shown across the first 4 tally marks, finally the tally marks are counted and the total of the tally marks against each value is its frequency. So this is the table shows like how to make the frequency. Now the next one is formation of discrete frequency distribution. The statistical series defines as the two variables quantitative can be arranged side by side so that measurable differences in the one corresponds with measurable difference in the other. The result is said to form a statistical series. A statistical series may be either discrete or continuous. A discrete series may be formed from items which are exactly measurable. For example, the number of students getting exactly 40, 50, 60, 70 marks can be easily counted, but height or weight cannot be measured with absolute accuracy. So this table shows the discrete series. Now the next one is formation of a continuous frequency distribution. Although the continuous series shows with the number of students with height exactly 5.6 inch cannot be counted. Exact height will be either 5.6 plus 0.01 or 5.6 minus 0.01. Here we are to count the number of students whose heights fall between 5 feet to 5.6 inches. Such series are known as continuous series. The following technical terms are important when a continuous frequency distribution is formed of data classified according to class interval. So continuous series, this is height in inches and there are number of series. Now class interval. The difference between upper and lower limit of a class is known as class interval. For example, in the class 100 to 200, the class interval is 100, which is 200 minus 100 is equal to 100. Right? Now the types of class interval. There are different types of class intervals which is given below. Number 1, inclusive type. Number 2, exclusive type. Number 3, open-end type. And number 4, unequal class interval. Right? So these 4 types are given into this table. So the different type of class intervals shows in the above table by different series of intervals. First, the exclusive type like 10 to 15, 15 to 20. Similarly, 15 is included and 10 excluded. In above 10 but not more than 15. Class interval. In the exclusive type of class limits are continuous. That is, the upper limit of one class interval is the lower limit of the next class interval, and class limits of a class interval coincide with the class boundaries of the class interval. It is suitable for continuous variables data and facilitates mathematical computation. Similarly, class intervals inclusive types are like 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, etc. Here, both the upper and lower class limits are included in the class intervals. For example, 60 and 69 both are included in the class interval 60 to 69. This is suitable for discrete variable data. There is no ambiguity to which an item belongs, but the idea of continuity is lost. To make it continuation, it can be written as 59.5, 69.5, 69.5 to 79.5, 79.5 to 89.5, etc. In open-end class interval, either the lower limit of the first class interval or upper limit of the last class interval, or both are missing. It is difficult to determine the mid-value of the first and last class interval without an assumption. If the other closed class intervals have equal width, then we can assume that the open-end class interval also have the same common width of the closed class intervals. Group frequency distribution are kept open-ended when there is limited number of items scattered over a long interval. Unequal class interval are preferred only when there is a great functions in the data. Now we come into the tabulation. Tabulation may be defined as the systematic presentation of numerical data in rows and columns according to certain characteristics. It is designed to simplify presentation of data for purpose of analysis and statistical inferences. The purpose of a table is to simplify the presentation and to facilitate comparisons. A statistical table may be a simple one or it may be a complex one, depending upon number of variables incorporated into it. This table may be one-way or two-way or manifold. Following illustrations is a simple example of tabulation. For example, during 2014 or 15, there were 3 faculties with 840 students in commerce, 660 in science, and only 50 students in management. The percentage of males is 40%, 25%, and 20% respectively in each subject stream. This data can be tabulated as followed: faculties, number of students, and total. So in commerce, there are male students 336, female student 504, so total 840. Science, 165 male student and 495 female students, total number of 660. And in management, 100 male students and 400 female students, and total number is of 500. So in total, there are 601 male students and 1399 female students, and the total enrollment is of 2000 students. So objective of tabulation. The main objective of tabulation is as follows. It simplifies complex data, it carry out investigation, it do comparison, it locate omissions and errors in the data, it use space economically, it helps in references. Types of table. In a broad way, tabulation of data can be either simple or complex. In a simple tabulation, information are related about one or groups or independent questions, whereas in complex tabulation, the data or the information are in 2 or more categories and as such is meant to give information about one or more sets of interrelated questions. Tables may broadly classify into 3 categories as follows. Number 1, simple table or one-way table. In this type of table, only one characteristic are shown. One-way table supplies answers to questions about one characteristics of data. This is example of one type table. So gender, number of respondents, and percentage total. Male 110, and which is 55%, female 90, which are 45%. So total 200 respondents. So the number 2 is two-way table or double table, we can say. Such tables give information about 2 interrelated characteristics of a particular phenomenon. So there is category, commerce and management, less number of students, that is 130 or 70, percentage is 65 and 35 respectively, and high number of students is 400 and 120, and percentage is 76.92 and 23.08. So the third one is three-way table. If 3 interrelated phenomena are to be studied, there would be three-way tables. A three-way table can answer questions relating to 3 interrelated problems. It should be remembered that the number of characteristics represented increases, the table becomes more and more confusing, and as such normally not more than 4 characteristics should be represented in the same table as it given in this table. So there are students of BCom and MCom. So category class is male and female on the basis of their gender. So limit is low, middle and high. So as in MCOM, low, middle and high. So male is 30 low, 70 middle and high 80. So as in MCOM, low 10, middle 15 and high 35. Female student, low 40, middle 50 and high 110 in BCom, and 20 low, 25 middle and 20 high in MCom. So contents of table. Now the contents of table number 1. Each table should be numbered, should be easily identification and future references. Number 2, title. Every table should have a title which is generally given at the top of the table in the center. And captions. A caption generally has a main heading and a number of small subheadings. Stubs. It refers to the headings of the horizontal rows and written on the left hand side of the rows. Body. It contains the statistical data which have to be presented. Or head note. It refers to the data contained in the major part of the table and it is placed below the title of the table. Footnote. Footnotes are given below the table and are meant to clarify anything which is not clear from the heading, title, stubs and caption. Basic principles of tabulation. Number 1. Tables should be clear, concise and adequately titled. Number 2, every table should be distinctly numbered for easy reference. Number 3, column headings and row headings of the table should be clear and brief. Number 4, units of measurement should be specified and appropriate places. And number 5, explanatory footnotes concerning the table should be placed at appropriate places. Number 6, source of information of data should be clearly indicated. Number 7, the column and row should be clearly separated with dark line. And number 8, demarcation should also be made between data of one class and that of another. 9, comparable data should be put side by side. 10, the figures in percentage should be approximated before tabulation. 11. The alignment of the figures, symbols, etc. should be properly aligned and adequately spaced to enhance the readability of the same. And the last one is abbreviations should be avoided. Now, sorting of data. Sorting of data is the last process of tabulation. It is a time-consuming process when the data is too large. After classification, the data may be sorted using either of the following methods. Number 1, manual method. It is done by hand with the help of given tally mark for the number of times each event has occurred. Next, the total tally marks are counted. The method is simple and suitable for limited data. Number 2, mechanical and electrical method. To reduce the sorting time, mechanical device may be used. This is described as mechanical tabulation. For electrical tabulation, data should be codified first and then punched on card. For each data, a separate card is used. The punched cards are checked by a machine called verifier. Next, the cards are sorted out into different groups as desired by the machine called sorter. Finally, the tabulation is done by using a tabulator. The same card may be sorted out more than once for completing tables under different titles and tabulating using electronic computer. It is convenient to use electronic computer for sorting when number 1, data are very large. Number 2, data have to be sorted for future use. And number 3, the requirements of the table are changing. Such tabulation is less time consuming and more accurate than the manual method. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Statistics is the branch of mathematics concerned with collection, classification, analysis, and interpretation of numerical facts for drawing interface on the basis of their quantifiable probability. It can be interpreted aggregates of data too large to be intelligible by ordinary observations because such data tend to behave in the regular, predictable manner. However, the numerical figures called data obtained by counting or measurement. It means collection, classification, presentation, analysis, comparison, and meaningful interpretation of raw data, whereas in advanced phenomena, numbers of researchers were used advanced tools of statistics with systematic manner. In addition, the efficient functioning of various classification and tabulation tactics is shown in this module. In this module, various methods of classification and tabulation has been discussed in detail. The major prominence in this module is on discussing statistical data classification and tabulation with suitable examples. Thank you.